A $500,000 house does not cost $500,000. Sit with that for a second. Over 30 years, with interest, property taxes, insurance, and basic maintenance, that house will drain between $1.1 and $1.3 million from your household. And here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. The bank says you can afford it. Your realtor says it's a great time to buy. Your coworkers are all doing it. But 70 to 80% of American households that sign for a $500,000 home will eventually find themselves drowning in financial stress, cutting expenses they never imagined cutting. They're lying awake doing math at 2 in the morning, wondering how they make a combined $140,000 a year and still feel broke. My name is Guru, and today I'm going to walk you through 3 specific numbers that determine whether you can actually afford a $500,000 home. Not the number the bank approves you for. Not the number your real estate agent uses to close the deal. The real numbers that determine whether you'll sleep peacefully or spend the next 30 years as a prisoner in your own home. If you've ever looked at a mortgage calculator and felt your stomach drop, this video is going to explain exactly why, and more importantly, what you should do instead.
Let's start with an uncomfortable truth. In dozens of American cities right now, $500,000 is not luxury. It's the baseline. Denver, Austin, Nashville, anything within commuting distance of a major metropolitan area, $500,000 gets you a 1,200 square foot house with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and a backyard that's barely bigger than the kitchen inside it. The listing agent will call it a charming starter home with a straight face. The median household income in America sits around $84,000 a year. So we are asking families earning $84,000 to afford homes that cost 6 times their annual income. For historical context, the healthy benchmark used to be 3 times annual income. We've doubled the burden and collectively agreed to call it normal. According to data from the National Association of Realtors and the U.S. Census Bureau, home prices have increased roughly 400% since 1990, while median household income has risen only about 180% in the same window. The gap between what homes cost and what people earn has never been wider. Everyone keeps telling you that you can do it. The mortgage broker says you're approved. Your parents say they bought their first home on a fraction of your salary. Some person on social media claims they bought 3 houses with no money down.
So, what's actually going wrong? The problem is that everyone is lying to you about what the word affordable really means. And the lies start at the very beginning with the down payment. The traditional guideline is 20% down on a $500,000 home. That's $100,000 in cash. According to Federal Reserve data, the median savings account balance in America holds roughly $8,000. You're not a little short. You're $92,000 short. And before you tell yourself you'll just save up, let's run that math. If you earn $84,000 a year and somehow manage to save 10% of your gross income, which almost nobody actually does, you're putting away $8,400 per year. At that rate, saving the down payment takes 12 full years. And that assumes housing prices stay frozen, which they absolutely will not. Prices have climbed an average of 4 to 5% annually in most markets, which means the finish line keeps moving further away while you're running toward it. So most buyers skip the 20% and put down 5 or 10% instead.
The moment you do that, you unlock a monthly penalty called private mortgage insurance, or PMI. This is a fee between $200 and $400 per month that you pay for the crime of not being wealthy enough to put 20% down. And here's the part that stings. You're paying extra money every month for insurance that protects the bank, not you. The system is literally taxing you for being middle class. Now, let's talk about what the actual monthly cost looks like, because this is where most people's math breaks down completely. You put down 10%,
which is $50,000 you scrape together from somewhere. That leaves a $450,000 loan. At current interest rates, sitting between 6 and 7%, depending on your credit score, your monthly principal and interest payment lands around $2,750 to $2,850. But that's just the mortgage. That number doesn't include a single other cost you need to actually live in the house. Add property taxes. Depending on your location, that's $4,000 to $8,000 per year, roughly $500 per month on the conservative end. Then, homeowners insurance, which has climbed significantly in recent years as climate risk has driven up premiums across the country. Budget another $250 to $350 per month, depending on whether your home is in a flood zone, fire zone, or severe storm region. Then, maintenance, the cost everyone ignores until the water heater quits at 11 p.m. on a Sunday. The standard rule, and this comes from decades of housing data, is to budget 1% of your home's value per year for repairs and upkeep. On a $500,000 house, that's $5,000 annually, or about $417 per month. And this isn't optional money.
Roofs fail, HVAC systems die, plumbing corrodes, foundations shift. These aren't possibilities, they're certainties on a timeline. Stack PMI on top, another $300 per month. So here's your total. Mortgage, $2,850. Property taxes, $500. Insurance, $300. Maintenance, $417. PMI, $300. Your total monthly housing cost is $4,367 on a calm month, when nothing breaks, when the HOA doesn't send a surprise assessment, when no appliance decides to quit on a Sunday night. Now here's where the real math gets brutal. Financial advisors consistently recommend that you should not spend more than 28% of your gross monthly income on housing. That's the gold standard for financial health. Banks, on the other hand, will approve your loan if your total debt-to-income ratio stays under 43%. Those are two catastrophically different thresholds. Let's reverse engineer both. If $4,367 represents 28% of your income, you need to be earning roughly $187,000 per year. If we use the more lenient 43% threshold that banks use, you still need $150,000 annually, just for housing alone, before a single car payment, student loan, or grocery bill. Only about 10 to 20% of American households earn $150,000 or more per year, which means 80% of American households cannot comfortably afford a $500,000 home under any responsible financial standard. This isn't an opinion. This isn't pessimism. This is arithmetic being completely honest with you while everyone around you pretends it isn't.
And here's the first of the 3 numbers I promised you. Number 1 is the bank's number. This is what the mortgage company approves you for based on that 43% debt-to-income ratio. This number is designed to maximize the bank's profit while keeping their default rate just low enough to be statistically acceptable. It is not designed to protect your well-being. Treat this number as the absolute ceiling, and then ignore it completely when making your actual decision. Let me show you what this looks like in practice. Picture a couple. She's a marketing manager earning $68,000 a year. He's in IT, pulling in $75,000. Combined income, $143,000. That puts them above the national median, solidly upper middle class by most definitions. They should be comfortable. They should be building wealth. Let's watch what happens when they buy that $500,000 house. Their gross income of $143,000 sounds strong until taxes take their cut. After federal taxes, state taxes, FICA contributions, and a modest 5% 401k contribution, they're bringing home about $9,000 per month. That's their actual money to run their lives. Subtract the $4,367 housing cost, they have $4,633 left for everything else in their entire lives.
2 car payments because American suburbs require you to drive everywhere, $800. Car insurance for both vehicles, $250. Gas for 2 daily commutes, $300. Student loans, because they needed those degrees to qualify for the mortgage in the first place, $600. Health insurance their employers don't fully cover, $400. Groceries, if they're careful and watching every sale, $800.
Utilities, internet, phones, $450. That brings them to $533 remaining. $533 per month for clothing, entertainment, kids' activities, car repairs, medical copays, dental work, and the basic psychological need to occasionally leave the house and do something that doesn't involve staring at the walls they can barely afford. No emergency fund being built. No meaningful retirement savings beyond that minimum 401k. No vacation. No buffer. Nothing set aside for anything unexpected. This household is spending 46% of their take-home pay on housing, not 28%, not 35%. Nearly half of every dollar they bring home goes straight to one address. And these are not irresponsible people. They didn't buy jet skis or take European vacations. They are simply trying to live in a house the market told them was completely normal.
That brings us to the second number, the real number. This is 28% of your gross monthly income. Whatever that monthly amount is, that is your maximum total housing cost. Not just the mortgage principal and interest, everything combined. Taxes, insurance, maintenance, PMI, all of it. For a household earning $100,000, that's $2,300 per month total. Work backwards from there to find the purchase price you can actually sustain without sacrificing your financial health. For most American families, that number comes in well below $500,000. While every family's situation is unique and factors like location, existing savings, and debt levels all play a role, the 28% rule exists because decades of financial research show that exceeding it consistently correlates with higher financial stress, lower savings rates, and increased default risk. Here's the part that none of the videos you've probably already watched on this topic talk about: the true cost of that $500,000 house over 30 years. If you take out a $450,000 loan at 6.5% over 30 years, your total principal and interest payments add up to roughly $1,035,000. You are paying $585,000 in interest alone. That is more than the original price of the house. Add property taxes over 30 years, conservatively $150,000. Add homeowners insurance, another $75,000 to $90,000. Add maintenance at the 1% rule, another $150,000. Your $500,000 house actually costs between $1.4 and $1.5 million over the full life of ownership. That number alone should make you pause. But it gets worse when you factor in opportunity cost. Let's say instead of putting $100,000 down on a house, you invested that money in a broad market index fund averaging 10% annual returns. That 10% is the historical S&P 500 average going back to 1926, according to data compiled by NYU Stern. Over 30 years with dividends reinvested, that $100,000 grows to approximately $1.74 million. The down payment you handed to the bank isn't just $100,000. It's the $1.74 million that money could have become. Now, I am not saying renting is always better than buying. That is a false binary, and every person's financial situation is different. What I am saying is that when you buy a house you cannot actually afford, you are not making an investment. You are making the most expensive purchase of your life while simultaneously destroying your ability to invest in anything else. You are locking up your largest asset in something that historically appreciates at 3 to 4% per year, while the money you handed over could have been earning 10%. And you are accepting 30 years of financial stress to do it.
And here's the systemic problem nobody in the real estate industry will tell you. Every single person involved in the home buying transaction profits when you buy. The bank makes money on 30 years of interest. The real estate agent earns a commission based on the sale price. The insurance company collects your premium every year. The mortgage servicer earns fees for processing your payments. The home inspector gets paid at closing. The title company takes their cut. Not one person sitting at that closing table has a financial incentive to tell you that you might be about to overextend yourself. The entire system is engineered to get you into the house, not to ensure you can survive living in it once you're there.
Let me walk you through what actually happens month by month when someone ignores all of this and buys anyway, because plenty of people do. Month 1, the payment goes through. It's tight, but you managed it. Month 2, same thing. You've already canceled a couple subscriptions and stopped eating out, but you're keeping your head above water. Month 4, the car needs new brakes. $800 you don't have because every single dollar already has an assigned job. It goes on a credit card. Month 7, the air conditioning dies in July. The repair quote is $3,500. You don't have it. You finance it at whatever rate the repair company offers because you're desperate. Month 9, your partner's hours get cut at work. Now you're $600 short every single month. And that emergency fund you always planned to build, it never happened because there was never anything left over to save.
This is what being house poor actually means. You technically own the property. The bank really owns it for the next 30 years. But you can't maintain it properly. You can't enjoy it. You can't feel at peace inside it. Every unexpected cost becomes a full-blown financial emergency. Every money decision gets filtered through one single question. Can we still make the mortgage this month? And here's the truly twisted part. We have normalized this. We've rebranded financial desperation as a personality trait and called it adulting. You're house poor? Welcome to homeownership. Can't afford furniture for 3 of your rooms? That's just part of the journey. Eating budget meals because the mortgage took everything this month? At least you're building equity. We have collectively agreed to treat barely affording basic shelter as a rite of passage instead of what it actually is, a symptom of a system that has completely disconnected from income reality. Your parents bought a house when they were your age? What nobody mentions is that their house cost 3 times their annual income. Yours costs 6 times yours. Your friends are buying homes right now? What you can't see is what their bank account looks like at 3 in the morning when they can't sleep. Society tells you renting is throwing money away. Nobody mentions that being crushed by a mortgage you can't sustain is also throwing money away, just with more paperwork and significantly worse consequences.
That brings us to the third and most important number, the freedom number. This is the number where you can pay your housing costs, maintain your home properly, fund a full emergency account of 6 months' expenses, invest 15 to 20% of your income for retirement, and still have enough left over to live a life that doesn't feel like financial survival mode every single day. The freedom number is different for every household, but I can tell you this with certainty. If buying a house means you can no longer invest consistently, if it means your emergency fund stays permanently empty, then you haven't bought a home. If it means every unexpected expense becomes a crisis, you've purchased a liability that looks like an asset from the outside. So here's what I want you to do with everything you've just heard. First, calculate your real number. 28% of your gross monthly income. Whatever that figure is, that is your maximum total housing cost. Not what the bank approved you for, not what your agent thinks you should spend. That number. Second, work backwards to find the home price that actually supports it. For a household earning $100,000, you're looking at homes in the $300,000 to $350,000 range, not $500,000.
Third, build your down payment without liquidating your retirement accounts or taking on additional debt. If that takes 3 years, it takes 3 years. There is no trophy for rushing into a mortgage that makes you miserable for 30 decades. Fourth, have 6 months of living expenses saved in a separate emergency fund before you sign any closing documents. Because houses break, life happens, and the families who survive homeownership without going bankrupt are the ones who prepared for the inevitable instead of hoping nothing would go wrong. And fifth, be honest with yourself about what you can actually carry. Not what you qualify for on paper, not what your friends are doing, what you can genuinely sustain for 30 consecutive years without lying awake at night wondering how you're going to make it work. There is no prize for buying a house you can't afford. There is no award for being house poor.
The stress of barely making your mortgage payment every single month will erase every ounce of pride you felt the day you got the keys. Sometimes the smartest financial move you can make is looking at a $500,000 listing, running the honest numbers, and saying, this does not work for me right now. And that's not failure. That's math. That's wisdom. That's protecting your future instead of mortgaging it for the appearance of success.
You're not less successful because you're being realistic. You're not falling behind because you refuse to financially drown yourself for granite countertops and a 2-car garage. You're doing the math that the entire real estate industry hopes you never sit down and actually run. The housing market will keep pretending these prices are sustainable. Banks will keep approving loans that arguably should not exist. Real estate agents will keep saying it's always a great time to buy. But you do not have to participate in that game just because everyone around you is playing. Sometimes the most powerful financial decision you can make is recognizing when the odds are not in your favor and choosing to wait until they are. If this video saved you from making a decision you'd regret for the next 30 years, hit that subscribe button and watch this video right here next, where I break down exactly how much house you can actually afford based on your specific income. Because the answer might be more encouraging than you think. It's just not $500,000.